Alright guys, we have just had another big weekend of championship action and we are here today to digest all of the games. Over on the community tab, I asked you guys what you made of the matches this weekend, and in today's video we're going to be reacting to some of your best comments. As always, do leave your thoughts in the comments down below for what you made of your side's performance this weekend. We do also have one game going on in midweek which we will be previewing at the end of the video, so make sure to stick around for that. 300 likes would be massively appreciated, but without any further ado, let's jump in. And it was a big result for Leeds this weekend. Tyler, who's a Leicester fan, says Leeds simply outplayed us. Kiernan and Kasedi did nothing all day. The manner of the goal was disappointing, but the result was fair. Our defence was still spectacular as always. Leeds simply took advantage of that corner. Biggest negative all season has been our inability to generate chances for our strikers through build-up. Hopefully, Tom Cannon solves that. And what a result this was for Leeds, obviously. Leicester coming into this game on a 9-game winning streak. We did say coming into this one that if anyone was going to cause this Leicester side some problems on this unbeaten run, Leeds absolutely had the tools to go ahead and do that. But the game itself was a little bit different than how I sort of anticipated it. I expected there to be a few more goals in this one, but Leeds defensively got this one absolutely spot on, limited Leicester to just one shot on target throughout the entire game. I think they got their press absolutely spot on, and obviously it was Rutter who took the chance when it came around. A little bit of a disappointing one from Leicester's perspective coming from that set play, but other than that, Leicester did defend fairly well considering some of the other chances Leeds had, but they ultimately couldn't get that little bit of a spark in the final third. It was Fatawu with their best chance, but that one came off the bar. Like the comment said there, very interested to see Tom Cannon once he's finally integrated into that Leicester squad, he's back fully fit and things like that, because I do think he'll give them a slightly different dynamic compared to the other forwards that they've been utilising so far. Obviously someone who I'm a massive fan of after a spell with Preston last season. But that result there for Leeds absolutely cannot be underestimated. They've still got a bit of a mountain to climb to get themselves back in contention for one of those automatic spots. There's still a 7-point gap between Leeds and Ipswich, and obviously Ipswich still have that game in hand which they're going to play midweek where they could extend their lead to 10 points over Leeds. But we've already seen Leicester going on a crazy unbeaten run this season, putting together 9 consecutive wins. I really wouldn't put it past this Leeds squad to put together a similar run of form. I think they've got all the tools in there to go ahead and do that, and a result like this away at Leicester should give them the world of confidence. Raving Engineer says little disappointed with a point for the Tractor Boys, but the lads showed character to fight back from 2 goals down. Could have won on another day, but a point on the road is okay. Nervous about Leeds, Southampton and West Brom. Yeah, looking forward to Ipswich's fixture run, and especially in December they do have some tricky matches coming up, so it'll be interesting to see how they go ahead and navigate those. This one really looked like a game of 2 halves. Birmingham came out for the first half. Ipswich weren't at their best. Couple sloppy goals conceded, but the second half really did look like one-way traffic, and in the end it was Harness coming on, which really was the game-changing substitution for Ipswich, him scoring 2 goals and getting them back into the game. And that has been a real asset of Ipswich so far this season. Even when they've not been at their best, as they certainly didn't look to be in this game, they still managed to get something from the game. I mean, they fought back from 2 goals down earlier in the season in that game they had at home against Cardiff. They fell behind last week against Plymouth and still came back to win this one, and even in this game against Birmingham, fought back for a point. Bit of a frustrating one for Blues, having gone 2 goals up. Felt like it could have been the start of something under Wayne Rooney, and a few more signs had started to show. It just wasn't to be, and it now stretches the winless run to 4 games under Rooney. Liam, who's a Bristol City fan, says, can definitely tell having no Nigel is having an effect on the players. Today we made hard work against a poor Wednesday side. To only beat 10 men 1-0 with your centre-back scoring and goalkeeper bailing you out is not good. Wednesday fans stayed really positive throughout the 90, so credit to them as they didn't have much to cheer for today, but neither did we. Yeah, the game-changing moment in this game coming with the Barry Bannon red card. So it's been a bit of a contentious one on social media. Denial of a goal-scoring opportunity, Bannon clipping the legs just outside the box is what leads to the red card. Now, really it's Dawson who drops Bannon in that sort of situation, obviously under Danny Roll. Wednesday looking to play out from the back a little bit more, and it's a poor pass from Dawson, really stitches Bannon up as he's already got a few men on him. He's then forced to make the challenge, and Wednesday have got a mountain to climb. But as Liam says there, Bristol City did make relatively hard work of this game, and Max O'Leary had to be on his toes throughout this one, as Wednesday did pose a few questions themselves going forward. You can definitely see some of the improvements that Wednesday have made recently, but is it going to be too little too late? because they've got such a mountain to climb in terms of the points they need to start picking up on a regular basis to catch up the teams above them. Ultimately, Bristol City did get the result over the line, but still a work in progress, especially with no Nigel Pearson. There wasn't particularly much to write home about in Huddersfield against Watford. Clear-cut chances really at a premium in this match, and it ultimately finished goalless. Looked like a game between two sides that look more than likely to probably finish in the bottom half this season. Obviously, Huddersfield just above that dotted line right now. I know that Watford have been on a good run recently. They've taken advantage of some decent fixtures that they've had, but I'm still not totally convinced that when the fixtures do flip a little bit for Watford and they do play some of those sides in their top half of the table, that they will take advantage of those matches, because there's still a couple underlying factors that I don't think they've quite solved yet. While Watford dominated the ball, they didn't really craft out that many clear-cut chances themselves and looked to be a bit of a dull game. Christian says Ryan Fraser is clutch, this team is special. It's now 7 unbeaten for Russell Martin's men, and once again they left it late against Millwall. Ryan Fraser popping up with the last minute winner, and that's now 5 goals Southampton have scored in added time after the 90-minute mark, which is utterly remarkable. The amount of late goals they've scored while on this terrific run of form, it has kept them ticking along in and around the top of the table, and Southampton just 1 point behind Leeds at the moment. I think it's worth pointing out, 27 so far. Still got quite the gap to bridge between the likes of Leicester and Ipswich, but with this unbeaten run they put themselves in an absolutely fantastic position. Now for Millwall, they're still winless since parting company with Gary Rowett. As of recording, seems as if Joe Edwards is going to be that next manager going in at the Den. Millwall fans, I'd be interested to get some of your takes on that down below. The first thing that absolutely needs to be ironed out with the new Millwall manager coming in is their home form. Based on their home form so far this season, Millwall have been a bottom 3 side. Only Sheffield Wednesday and QPR have accumulated less points at home than Millwall have up until this point. It's now 5 defeats in 8 home matches for Millwall, which is quite a concerning emerging pattern. They do have a couple winnable games coming up. Next up for Millwall, they've got games against Sheffield Wednesday and Coventry, 2 sides who are both below them at the moment, before what looks like a bit of a tricky fixture list coming up in December. And Plymouth against Middlesbrough did not disappoint from an entertainment point of view. I fancied there to be a few goals in this one. I had it down as a 2-2 draw. In the end, we had a 6-goal thriller. Got to see both sides of Plymouth in this game. Really some fantastic attacking play and a little bit slack defensively, and realistically that's been the story of their season so far. Up until this point, only Leicester and Ipswich have scored more goals than this Plymouth side have. They create plenty of chances per game and are wonderfully entertaining to watch, but what's been their Achilles heel all season so far has been that slack defensive record. Now 25 goals conceded in their first 15 matches. Credit to Borough for fighting their way back into this game. It was a real topsy-turvy one with chances going in at both ends. Bit of a controversial decision towards the end when Middlesbrough were leading 3-2. Miller putting in a tackle on Isaiah Jones, which Michael Carrick wasn't happy that didn't get given as a red card. What you would say is Plymouth, and we've reported on it throughout the last few weeks, have been on the receiving end themselves of some dodgy decisions recently, but perhaps got away with one there, and then it was obviously Whittaker who came up with the equaliser. Some great individual performances from Plymouth from an attacking point of view. Azaz with the goal of the game in this one, thought he was looking really lively. Next up for Middlesbrough is a really intriguing game up against Leicester. Very excited to see how they get on in that game. Luke gives his one-word verdict for Coventry's performance this weekend. That's now 4 consecutive losses for Mark Robins' men as Preston finally got back to winning ways. Now, it was quite a topsy-turvy game, this one at Deepdale this weekend. Obviously, you got to see Coventry up close and personal for the first time this season, and quite a few concerns popped out to me within this match. I thought they took the lead somewhat against the run of play in the first half, but Preston managed to turn it around before half-time thanks to goals from Dwayne Holmes and Alan Brown. Now, the penalty decision was a little bit contentious. It was McFadzean with 2 hands in the back of Osmajic. It was soft looking back at the replay. What I would say is that Preston have been on the receiving end of some awful decisions recently, so it's about time that a little bit of luck went our way, but I can see why Coventry may be a little bit miffed about that. To be fair to Mark Robins, I thought he made the right changes going into the second half. They switched to a 4-3-3. I thought they looked much more effective going through the final third with that sort of formation. Would like to see maybe that from the off next time for Coventry. The real problem though, and what's been their Achilles heel, is the soft goals they're conceding right now. Couldn't believe how much space we were afforded for the third goal we scored in this one. Miller with a bunch of space on the left hand side to perfectly weight his cross into Osmajic, who's almost unmarked in the 6-yard box for a free header. I thought that Ben Wilson had quite a few nervy moments throughout this match as well. There was one Alan Brown chance in the first half which he nearly fumbled into the back of his net, and just that whole back three isn't playing with a lot of confidence right now, and they were far too easy to create chances against. With that being said, we saw a bit from Haji Wright in this game. And from an attacking aspect, I still think there's a good side in there for Coventry where there is plenty of goals to be had, but it's just not clicking for them right now. Connor, who's a QPR fan, says to say Cifuentes' style is such a stark contrast to Ainsworth is an understatement. 58% possession today compared to 20% last week says it all. I wasn't expecting much given the very short turnaround, but I feel encouraged by what I saw. I think if we can be a bit more clinical and defensively aware, I think we will be fine. I think patience is key. Still 31 games left in this season, so a long way to go yet. I think that's a very balanced response. I think we got to see a little bit more from QPR in this game. Chair absolutely on fire, a cracking goal he scored, creating plenty of chances for his teammates, and I think that given the new style of play that QPR seem to be angling for, their technical players like Chair and Willock could absolutely thrive in this new system, and they will be absolutely pivotal to any sorts of survival hopes that QPR have this season. Looking on a bit to their fixture run in for the remainder of the year, for the months of November and December, I do think there are quite a few winnable matches coming up for this QPR squad, and so if they can nail this style of play over this next few weeks, get that coaching really drilled into these players, there are quite a few opportunities to pick up points in these matches. Obviously it was a set piece which was their undoing. It's how Rotherham got back into this game, always where they were going to look to cause some problems, and realistically a point doesn't do a great deal for either side's survival hopes. This really was a game where 3 points for either side could have done them the world of good. But like Connor says there, maybe a bit more encouragement with that style of play going forward for QPR. Ben says Stoke against Cardiff, the highlight of the game, the full-time whistle. Yeah, wasn't a cracker between these two, ultimately cancelling each other out. It was two sides coming into this game on good runs of form, and we expected a bit of a tight one, and in the end that's how it transpired. If I had to say either team edged it going off these stats, maybe Cardiff slightly, but I think a point was probably justified for both sides in this one. A lack of clear-cut chances in this game, and ultimately a game where defences came out on top. Mark, who's a Sunderland fan, says very frustrating and couldn't score, battered them pretty much all game, playing with 11 and then 10. Before half-time we gave a silly penalty away, but thankfully Patterson saved. We huffed and puffed, but whether it was off the bar, good goalkeeping and bad missing, we just couldn't score. And the stats really backed that up for this game. 25 shots from Sunderland in this game, but just 3 of them being on target. Now, a few key decisions in this match. Obviously the Patino red card quite early on for 2 bookable offences meant that Swansea were always going to be up against it, but then they were presented with the perfect opportunity to get in front, but Jamal Lowe has his penalty saved. And other than that, it was Sunderland trying to get in and around this Swansea side, but not really being able to do so. They got into a few relatively decent situations, but couldn't make that quality tell, and in the end, a bit of a frustrating afternoon all round for Sunderland. Hull fans won't have been left too happy with their performance this weekend. This comment saying absolutely awful from a Hull perspective, losing 3-1 against West Brom. They absolutely gifted the Baggies the opening goal, trying to play out from the back. Seri with a bit of a hospital pass, which Jed Wallace takes advantage of. Hull do get back into the game, but ultimately it's West Brom who come out on top once again in the second half. The second goal of this game, by the way, for West Brom, absolutely beautifully worked from back to front. And the player who really caught my attention in this game was Grady Diangana, someone who has been up and down these last few years in terms of his form, but when you get him in that sort of form, when he can isolate the fullback in one-on-one situations, which he did with West Brom's third goal which he set up, he can be absolutely unplayable. So a great result and performance there from West Brom. Hull not quite at their firing best in this one, which was a little bit of a surprise for me considering they won their last 2 matches going into this game. And then the last game we had going on this weekend, we saw Blackburn taking apart Norwich 3-1, and surely that's the end of David Wagner. You could feel the anger in the Norwich City crowd after every Blackburn goal went in. They were greeted by a chorus of boos. It's now 6 games without a win for Norwich, 4 consecutive defeats on the bounce. Norwich now have the worst defensive record in the Championship, having conceded 30 goals in their first 15 matches, and surely this can't be allowed to continue for much longer. After the game, Wagner seemed like a beaten man, to be honest, and he doesn't look like he's got it in him to change the momentum around at Norwich. And certainly not to take any shine off Blackburn's win, because I was really impressed with Rovers in this one. Played some brilliant football throughout the third, some lovely 1 and 2 touch passes. The first goal from Rovers in this one, excellently put away by Tyree Stolen, sort of set the tempo for the rest of the match, and then 2 well taken goals from Sammy Smodics as well. The red card slightly took the shine off things for Rovers, but very much looking forward to Preston's game against Blackburn, which is coming up on the Friday. I think that with both teams winning this weekend, that sets that game up really nicely. But from a Norwich perspective, it doesn't get much worse than that. But guys, there we have it. Those were all the matches that went on in the Championship over the weekend. Make sure to get your thoughts on them in the comments down below. Before we go ahead and wrap up today's video, we also have a match coming up in midweek as well. So the match we've got going on in midweek sees Rotherham taking on Ipswich. Obviously, this game was postponed the other week. It has been rescheduled to take place in midweek, and an interesting matchup. Ipswich, I don't think were at their sparkling best against Birmingham, but still managed to fight back from 2 goals down to claim a point, and this seems like a decent opportunity to get back to winning ways against the Rotherham side, who I think have now only won 1 of their last 9 Championship matches. Now, they've not been a complete walkover, especially in their home games. They've only lost 2 of the 7 games they've had at home so far, but I still have Ipswich down as the favourites in this game. Think they'll come through this test. Going to go 2-1 the away side in this fixture. So do leave your score prediction down below for that game. But other than that, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. If you did go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like, and I'll see you all in the next one.